started here in a second. Congratulations on finding the room here. We're a little back in the corner here. So just give everyone another minute or two to get here and we'll kick things off. I'm Noah. I'm joined by Caleb and Peter. We're doing some introductions in a second here, and Caleb's got a sign-up sheet as well if you'd like to share any info that we'll pass around. So how many of you here are with state corrections agencies? Okay, great. And how many are educators? And how many are administrators? Okay, great. Well, we've got a mix. So yeah, why don't we kick things off then? And so just to introduce everyone, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Nucleos. And Nucleos is a public benefit company with a mission to promote a more just society through education and training. We're joined by Peter.
Peter Abrahams. I'm the assistant director for the Virgin Islands Bureau of Corrections. So I'm on the side of the administrators.
And
hey everyone, my name is Caleb with IT1 and also Nucleos, one of our partners. Great to be with you today.
And we were just playing around seeing what can AI do. So it can turn us all into the Simpsons, which is fun. This is actually the cutting edge tech. If you tried this last week on ChatGPT, it wouldn't work. Like just in the past couple of days, they've released a new autoregressive image model, which is, you know, a new breakthrough in AI. So we aren't doing an AI presentation. We are incorporating AI into what we're doing, but I'm just always thrilled to see capabilities breakthrough. So if anyone wants to make the Simpsons version of yourself, ChatGPT is the way to go. How to integrate it into education and training, that's a whole different topic. But we'll start out talking more about really the use case from Virgin Islands, their challenges, and what they've experienced. I want to start just asking you, Peter, what were the challenges? Well, you know, maybe even before we go into the challenges, maybe just share a little bit about your role at Virgin Islands Bureau of Corrections and what led you to get involved in education technology and the process of digital transformation you've been leading.
First, I got to start off by saying, for the folks in here, I'm not an IT person, so that wasn't a focus for me, and I'm not a teacher. Oh, you know, I'm an administrator, and when I came on board about 2019, I got a directive from my boss, the director and the governor of the Virgin Islands, that listen, we are no longer warehousing people in our prisons. We want to go through a rehabilitative program. We want to be able to rehabilitate people. Okay, they're not being stored here. And so I said, all right, I got to figure out a way how to do this now. The only problem is when I first got in there, believe it or not, we had 250 inmates that were spread across 2 islands and a budget of $10,000. That was it. And you're asked to rehabilitate, provide some type of training for these individuals. And so, you know, of course, I go back to my boss and I say, listen, you know, no money, no mission. I'm an administrator. So from that standpoint, I had to come up with ideas. So in a past life, I was a grant writer. So guess what I had to start doing? I had to start coming up with an idea, a program. We started writing grants for the stuff that we were doing. And that one of the things I realized in doing my research was that the average age of the individuals in our facility was 24 years old. Okay, and most of them were in there for violent crimes. So we had to figure out a way, how do I set this person on a career path? So we were focused on how can we obtain a career path for employment with equitable access for sustainable careers. That's the whole purpose of us being there. So we went out and we developed an RFP to establish a learning and rehabilitation platform that was evidence-based for the development and management of our reentry program. We did that back in June of 22. And we tried to reach out to as many people as we could in the industry. We had a set of goals, we had a set of ideas of what we wanted to accomplish. And we recognized, for those of you who work in corrections, you realize that one, staffing is a problem. You know, there is no staff. And then what staff you have, they come with their own cultural biases. Why are we doing this for the inmates? So we have to come up with a program that the inmates can buy into, staff can buy into, and that we can push as a tool for education. And with that, we had a large committee across a spectrum of different government agencies, and we selected our current platform provider, which was Nucleus, out of all of the proposals that we received. And from that, we sat down with them and we talked about all the different requirements that we need, because within facilities, from a security standpoint, you don't want them to use the platform to continue their criminal enterprises from the inside of the facility. So it was, how do we go ahead and provide internet access for our program? Because we decided to use a tablet program to be the distribution of the educational and vocational programs. Well, how do we get that done on a secure platform that we can have the inmates utilize these tablets? And so Nucleus had a solution for that. And so we also wanted that platform to be expandable, where that we can have all of our programs, because we were using programs for assessments, things like that. We wanted to use what we were using. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. And they were able to bring those resources into the platform. So it's not like getting a platform and it was already, what they call a platform in a box. You take what they give you. No, this is us dictating what programs we want to have in there. So for example, in our educational program, we utilize both Penn Foster and American High School. And one of the things as you're trying to create a workforce, you have to make sure that the programs that you offer are credential program, industry recognized. Because the one thing you want to have is that you go through and a person finishes high school in your prison, and all they have is a piece of paper that says, completed high school. If there's no credential, there's no stuff behind it. And we had to make sure that this program that they can take to an employer and they can say, look, I completed high school. Here's my certificate of completion. So there was a whole host of stuff that we wanted to get in there, that we wanted to provide the inmates so that we could meet that mission of them getting into a sustainable career.
And we've been going on this now, what is it, 3 years in or so, right? So before you got started, what were your impressions about bringing digital education technology into corrections before you started the process?
Like I said, I'm not the IT guy, but I knew that something had to change, because the individuals that we were dealing with, I mean, I'm talking about a crowd that, PlayStation 2, they know all the video, all the technology. So the traditional method of providing education, I knew it wasn't going to work. I'll be honest with you. They had a GED program in the prison. We had a very low success rate with GED. Why? If you didn't score high on your TAPE test or whatever test you had, right? If you scored like an 8th grade level or you're in below, it took forever for you to complete the GED. Why? Because the way the GED program works is that you have to take all 4 years of high school on one test. So it was very difficult for our learners. I mean, I'm only speaking from the Bureau of Corrections, that from our learners was very difficult. So to go through a traditional high school, complete 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th, it worked best for them. And they did it, and they were able to do it at a self-paced method because of the fact of their experience with modern technology, I'm not, I see these kids, you know, with the thing and they're flipping their fingers back and forth. I don't even know what they're doing. But the technology works for them. And so we had to bring that to them. And so the passion and the wanting to learn, improved. And then the thing that we liked about it was that the fact that it was self-paced, you know, they go from one step to, they didn't need to have somebody, because a lot of times we found that when we were in an instructional setting, that, the instructor, you know, they really didn't, although they wanted somebody to be there to help them navigate through some of the problem solving, they did it on the platform.
And wanted to go into a little more about some of those goals. You touched on a lot of them for your goals for technology transformation. Is there anything else you'd like to add? And, you know, these are some of the ones that we discussed, right?
Right.
Maintaining security, improving education outcomes, improving data for decision-making, increasing admin efficiency, saving time, and making sure that access for incarcerated users was provided for free.
So just to rattle off a few of the goals that we had and that we were more focused on was that, first of all, we have to maintain security. The system had to operate in a prison setting. We had to have secure internet. And then one of the biggest issues was that it had to be a single sign-on. One of the things that I liked about it was that although they were able to take this tablet, because we were able to put Wi-Fi in housing units, they were able to take it back to their housing unit, and they were able to work on the tablet. And with the single sign-on, meaning that it took a snapshot of the person who was on the system, and you had a sign-on, so nobody can go in there and do other people's work. You understand what I'm saying? So the security was in there. We wanted to make sure that, you know, that was there. The second thing was that we wanted to improve the educational outcomes, wherein that it was self-paced. That if a person was having problems, they were able to go back and, you know, work out those problems, and it was at their speed, at their level. Because while they're incarcerated, we all know that stuff happens. They have their work detail, they have lockdowns, they have all this other issues that they had to go through. And the one thing that I liked about having the technology was that when there was a lockdown, the education building was locked down. So you run into a situation where you couldn't get the individuals to go to the education building to get the program. They were still able to do the programs from their housing units. The other area is that some of you have segregation units. So that became an issue too, where somebody had to be kept away from other individuals because of gang issues, whatever it was, that they were still able in the segregation unit, that they were still able to continue their education. They were still able to continue taking classes, whether it was education, either high school or vocational programs. We're able to get those done. Again, we like the fact that we're able to introduce industry accredited programs there, so that when they completed the programs, they actually got a certificate that was industry certified, NTOC, any of those certification programs. So we were happy about that. And then again, we talked about the expandable platform, that if we decided that there was a new course that we wanted to add, that was, you know, something that was really relatable to us in our workforce. For example, like a vocational program that we saw that was coming up in our community, that we could put that onto the platform and they can go through that program. The other thing was the improving of the data and decision making. One thing I liked about it is that all our assessment tools are on the tablet. So if you want to do the tape test, it's on the tablet. If you use AccuVision for your soft skills, it's on the tablet. If we actually use for our psychosocial assessments, we use StrongArm. which is a next level version of from the LSCMI. All of that, you can do your interviews and stuff on the tablet.
What's that called?
Stronger,
Strong.
yeah.
And I can show a little bit about what that looks like. So this is the admin portal. This is our platform with Nucleus Achieve DXP. This is the VIBOC instance we've put together for Virgin Islands, and you can see a lot of the different content that's on here, right? So some of those assessments, AccuPlacer, American High School. Does it give you a high school diploma, actually? Yeah, so, you know, our philosophy at Nucleus is we want to bring in those programs that are going to get you diploma, degree, or an industry recognized credential. So GED is, you know, of course, far better than like engaging with the high school content and not getting credit. High school diploma is even a level higher for those learners who are there. BOC Works is, what's BOC Works?
So that's a learning platform that we developed for our individuals. So it has different courses that we develop in-house for our learners, so that this was an opportunity for us to interject the additional stuff that we wanted to put into the system. So we go in there and we can tell the inmate what classes we want them to take under VOC Works. You know, we can tell them. The one thing that's really nice about the platform is that the case managers are in 100% control of the whole system. So you go into the system and you assign the classes to the inmate. You go and it shows up on their tablet what assignments they have, what they need to complete. And this covers the whole gamut from, like I said, from all the assessment tools. You go through and all these different classes, you can assign them.
And so Evolve, there's a question about the Strong R platform that we're using that does the case management, and that's a partner of ours called Vantage. They have a solution called Evolve, which is a platform for case managers. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that process is, how the Strong R ties into everything, and what your goals are for case management?
Sure. So all case managers have to create a case plan for their inmates. I'm sure all the correctional facilities. So we utilize, based on the Strong R tool, which is a psychosocial assessment, you go through and you answer, there's like 89 questions you have to go through and answer. Based on that, it creates a case plan based on the ranking of where this individual has the highest level of recidivizing in. So there's 10 categories, whether it's employment, education, cognitive thinking. It goes through the whole list. And so it gives you sort of like a stoplight diagram that says that this person has X percentage of recidivizing in these particular areas. So based on those areas now, it creates a plan. Based on all those programs that you see on the, that's listed here, all the apps that are listed, it pulls out programs from them that says, so for example, if there was a cognitive thinking issue, we offer a Thinking for a Change program, a class, right? So it will say that inmate X needs to attend this class to help them with their program, to help them become better. And so based on that, and inside of the umbrella of Evolve, they monitor and they track, and you can sit there and you can see how often they get on programs, if they're sticking to their schedule, if they're doing their work. You can see that from your desk. So although they may be working out of their housing unit, you can actually see the activity of that particular individual from the platform. So with that now, it creates a case plan based on all of the activities that they need to make and the conversation that inmate has with the case manager, and it prints out a report that you and the inmate have to sign, meaning you, the case manager, would sign and agree to, saying that this is our plan. This is how we're going to get you to the goals that you want to upon release.
Well, great. And so we won't show the Evolve platform today, but you know, it connects, and again, these are all the different courses across a variety of platforms, vocational, academic. We're tying in some programs.
One of the things I wanted to add is that of course, you know, the number one program that everybody wants is Pluto TV. And so we have a lot of recreational tools on there for the inmates that we try to utilize as incentive programs. So that if you notice that an inmate is not doing what they're supposed to, because as a system administrator, you can check the system. You can go ahead and you can say, okay, if I don't see an improvement in class work, then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to restrict the access time to entertainment. So you can use that as an incentive tool also.
Oh, great. And, you know, when you first started implementing the educational programs on the technology side, were there any things that surprised you? Unexpected challenges or unexpected successes?
Well, like I said, taking it from the standpoint, as an administrator, one of the things that I have to mention is that I get a lot of support from my case managers. As a matter of fact, they're here today with me. We have Miss Winston, Miss Russell, she's over on our St. Thomas, where I go back. And then we have our education officer in the back of the room. And they're constantly, every day, working with the inmates, trying to resolve issues and problems. Like what I've said is that this has put some controls in place where that you can better manage the outcomes of the individuals, because you don't have to rely on what somebody is saying. You can see it. You can see the assessments, you can see the tools. And the one thing that, you know, that we like as administrators, because everything we do has to be evidence-based, that we can go back and see what they've done in the past. And if a case manager goes back and does another assessment test, you can compare the two and see if there's been improvement. So if a program is working, that's the kind of program I, as an administrator, would like to focus on, because I already told you, my budget is limited. I don't want to sit there and spend funds on programs that are not working. So one of the things that this has done is that it has created a management tool that helps me as an administrator work with the instructors, you know, work with the security side of it. And then, like I said, again, it's a tool that is used to help manage behavior, so that we can use it as an incentive tool for behavioral modification. So I haven't really found a downside to the system, because like I said, you know, it's been helping me from a management standpoint see what's going on.
And would love to just open it up and see from the room as well, you know, for anyone that has been involved in education, technology transformation projects with your agency, if there's any goals or challenges that you would like to share, or any of the folks online, you can raise your hand to Zoom, and yeah, please. And if you please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kenzie. I'm from Utah. I'm with the Department of Corrections. I'm the education director. And I think something that can be, because we are looking into things like this at the moment as well. And how do you manage like the integrity of the tests? For example, maybe it's not integrity isn't the right word, but how do you know that they're doing their best? Like, because if it's just a completion thing, oh, I just complete this and now I gotta watch this movie. Well, what measures are in place to stop them from just getting through it? Because that's just a problem I can see already in my institution. And
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. How do you handle that, Peter?
Well, like I said, I'm not an instructor, and one of the things that I've always asked is that when we had the in-person instruction, right? It was the same issue as the same question you posed. It was the same issue, even with the in-person there. We've got folks that just show up and they just do what they need to do to get by. I've seen situations where that, if, you know, they find out, if I take this test, I take that second test, all I need is a 70 to pass, that's all I'm gonna do. So we try to incentivize, you know, the program so that the individuals can, you know, be interested in getting the whatever it is that they need to get. And we do that through the case management plan. We say, listen, if you're able to accomplish these objectives, these goals from your education standpoint, this is what the reward is. And so with some of the conversations that we've had with some of the individuals, you know, because I often get testimonial letters, you know, they'll send me thanking us for some of the stuff that we're doing, because nobody has shown interest in providing any kind of program to the inmates. But it allows them, you know, to meet their dream or their goal that they're trying to accomplish. And so we do this for everyone.
And I would just add to it, you know, our philosophy in this is that we want to try to meet learners where they are with their goals, and we think that the learning has to be intrinsically motivated. And so the way we approach that from technology side, I know there's some other programs that have like a learn to earn model. Personally, I don't think that's the right incentive. But, you know, I think, you know, to spend time in your GD course and let you watch a movie isn't really going to motivate someone to do the learning. So we don't automate that. We put it in the hands of the case manager. And I think, you know, in today's day and age, critical, high quality education inputs that you need are, you know, both technology and humans. We do not want to cut humans out of the loop. And I think learning is a social phenomenon. Fundamentally, I think, computer term maybe, but the bandwidth, the level of social interaction you get, you know, face to face, there's nothing that can replace it. So in the Virgin Islands, we have, you know, we have 4 of the wonderful case managers on here now. They spend a lot of time in person, meeting with people. And so it's really, we give them the tools to say, hey, we're going to restrict your time on this or not, but we don't try to automate that process. And then in terms of being able to develop that intrinsic motivation, we try to work on goal setting. And this is something that the case managers do with Virgin Islands. In our platform, there's a goal setting feature as well. And I think it's really important to ground everything in, you know, in what is, you know, what someone wants, because they have to be motivated.
Yeah, they do. I guess if I can have a follow-up question, what, so I know everything is self-paced. Are there classes that you are, you know, like doing a virtual session of? Because like you said, the face-to-face thing is so important. And just learning from a computer, I mean, like that's what we would be doing if it was the most effective thing, right? In education in general. And so I know that there's so many advantages to that, but then they're missing that other piece. Like, we're trying right now to figure out how we can have someone teaching in a classroom and be streaming it across both of our sites and across some of our jails all at the same time, so that they can be interacting. Is there anything like that, or is it just kind of the self-paced? Not just, I shouldn't say that. Is it the self-paced and then the like the credential that follows?
No, so it's not just, it's a mix, because we do have our tutoring program, where that if the and it's a volunteer program, and if inmate is having problems, we schedule times when they come into the education building, and they can meet with the tutor to have, you know, to address any concerns that they have or any questions that they have with the information that they're learning. We do have a computer lab where they can come into, and they can work with other peer-to-peer type of learning. So it's not just basically, you know, you give them a tablet and say, have a good life. No, there is some interaction with instructors, and we're trying to do that more. But the problem that we face in our jurisdiction is that it's very difficult to get people to want to come in and work in a prison. And so we try to reach out to get educators to want to come in, and there seems to be this phobia about working within a prison, you know, a prison facility. And so we've been, you know, it's amazing that the ones that really work to come in and help us are the faith-based groups. They have no problem coming to your facility and helping. We have some retired teachers that have no problem coming in. It was interesting, funny thing, because, some of these, retired teachers, they get to meet some of their students, from a previous time, in the facility. And so, it's so funny because we have this, parenting class that, one of the instructors, she sits there and it's like a reunion sometimes when she comes there to do this parenting class, because a lot of the inmates that are in there were students of hers, but no, it's a hybrid, it's a mix, where that, we do some tutoring where we can, and that we're trying to, reach out and, sort of like develop that, but getting individuals to come in, even when you pay them to come in to provide some instruction, it's very difficult because they got this, I guess, watching television and seeing what, life is like in a facility, they don't see it. Yeah.
And then I would just say, we are doing synchronous classes through Zoom integrations and supporting learning management systems in other states. I just wanted to show what that looks like. So we're doing every, we're working statewide with Wyoming Department of Corrections, and this is a synchronous Zoom class being shown. Can I expand it? No, it just takes me to LinkedIn. But anyway, you can see there, this is what the model looks like. So we're leveraging secure Zoom. We can do as many Zoom accounts as instructors want. And our model is, there's a whole world of apps out there. The average school district uses like 2,500 apps. And so we want to get the best one in every category. Zoom does video conferencing really well. It's what you would use on the outside. So as much as we can, we want to take those tools that you use on the outside, correctionalize it, lock the heck out of it, but make it so it can work. And then, for a college course, it's not really a curriculum app, right? You have your professors are creating their own curriculum there. So it's a learning management system, and we can support whatever one they want to use or provide one. We've worked with Canvas, D2L, Blackboard, Moodle, weird ones that people have built. We love those.
So when they're sitting in this environment here,
Mhm.
and there's someone on the screen, could they also be doing this from their unit?
Yes, they can.
They
So-
could be on the tablet watching. I just know for us, a lot of our students also work during the day, and the time that they want to take the classes is the time that I can't get teachers in the facility.
Yeah, I think the in-person component is so important, and the technology component is so important, but you don't necessarily, I think it's still an open question. Can the academic portions be augmented by computers, and the in-person focus more on soft skills? And there's a school here in Texas that has made the headlines this month called Alpha School, where they use AI personalized tutoring system for the students for the main coursework. Students spend 2 hours a day on coursework, and it personalizes them. So it's not the teacher saying we're all learning, counting to 100, or I guess it's high school, it's more advanced than that. But no, instead whatever level that student's at, they're gonna get that instruction, and they spend the rest of the day doing in-person group activities. And in the first year, the test scores for those students have gone from like 50th to 90th, or like 95th percentile. So very interesting. And I think so yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to do it, and we could support any of those models. And you had a question or comment?
Well, I was just intrigued about case managers being right with us in the room, and I was really trying to get a picture of how this has come into your, how it works and how you do meet with people to identify goals. I see the value of augmenting. I really do see so much of the value. And also, it's new. We don't have trends. We haven't seen a lot of patterns. Recidivism is a community issue. It's not just on the individual. So there's so much complexity. I'm just, because I'm really interested in how you engage with your, with the folks that you work with and how it's working.
Well,
If I can put you on the spot.
No problem. Well, with the Nucleus platform, again, after being on assessments, we meet with them, you get to know your client, you speak with them, you know them, and it comes more on a personal basis, you see when they're interested in the class. I have guys where they say they want to do one thing, but their assessment say the next. So I try to give them access to both, to weed them out to see exactly, okay, look, I like this one, but I don't like this one, and from there we go on. Another thing I do, especially with classes, we monitor how much classes we want to open or have available to them. And then they would excite me, will come and say, well, hey, you know, I completed the class, I finished it, so now you open the next one. And that's the next way how we monitor or keep them, keep charting on how well they're doing to give them access to the incentive programs and give them more television and whatnot. It goes based off of their personalities, and then at moments where you see they're not coming in, or you see a class is stagnant, now you can go on Nucleus, see that, okay, they're just watching TV, I can call you in my office, hey, what's up? Well, okay, I haven't seen anything, you haven't been doing, and then we can pull back the TV from them again, okay, now let's focus on classes, so it does work hand in hand, and again, it's database. Lets you know what they're doing in your room while still getting the classes done and doing work, so it keeps them busy.
How you can reach out to them and like call them, be like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Yeah, and because you're tracking, I think that's what.
Like over the tablet, you call
no, what, in the units, we just,
Oh.
yeah, like the after.
But there is a,
school.
but there is
But
a,
there is
there is
a-
an email,
On the
yeah.
tablet as well.
Yeah,
they're
it's nice.
themselves.
Where you can actually
Yeah.
say, yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
And
There's
it's
a
a-
little spy action going on there.
So the way the security system works is that the inmate can only speak directly with his case manager. The case manager can speak with all inmates, but it's only a one way, one-to-one. So again, you have to think about all of the security measures, because you don't want all of a sudden now, everybody, all the things that you've been trying to prevent have now come in, and that's why security was a big issue for us, and that's because we have to remember that this platform is a platform within itself, meaning that there is no connection to anywhere outside. So everything that we do inside of the platform, stays within the platform.
I think that's great. Okay, just real quick, also, really seems beneficial to have self-reflection tools, like I really into this cable nuts has been telling me, I think it has a lot of really positive, and we're working with our county jail, we've brought GED programs into the jail, but also in some of this wraparound, how do we help folks prepare for what the transition will be like, finding out all of that, so self-reflection tools, what personality tests, right? What am I? What kind of a learner am I? So in doing so, if I learn more about myself as a learner, learn more about what it means to learn in these different ways, and learn about the technology that I'm using and why that gives me a leg up. I think that's really important, rather than saying, okay, we delivered you this online in place of a human. Actually, it is leading edge technology that you're introduced to. Let's tell you how it works. So for those who are interested, if they can learn how this technology is working, I think that could be really benefit and get exciting, because they're part of a movement to serve them. The story of the teacher coming in, that's heartbreaking. That breaks my heart. And so for her coming in and knowing that her students are actually in the process of learning from themselves that she's a part of, she must go home and barely be able to sleep at night knowing that the kids that she taught are in jail.
Right.
And so there's just something about like, no, in this, we are working together to create something new and heal. Sorry, that was.
And when we have access to those types of tools, then it transforms the culture of the entire facility.
That's it, you
Um,
know, and it gets you a little further ahead into a new zone that you have a new identity in, rather than like the same old repeat, right?
And I really agree with you there. Our goal setting features on our platform, we're building them out to actually connect with, we want to do the MBTI for personality tests. We want to get the
Yeah,
data from
Myers-Briggs.
career assessments. And I thought this was just kind of fun on a side tangent. I just asked ChatGPT how well it could estimate these things. So my prompt was, from our conversations and what you can infer about me, please estimate with your reasoning my CASAs and GED scores. I've just been chatting with it. And it says, you write clearly, analyze complex idea. We think you're advanced level. Math, you've never discussed math content, but you handle budgets, strategic projections, and work with financial statements, which implies solid numeracy. We think 240 or 250. So this is just very interesting. This is just guessing these things. It'll guess, I'm a 250 plus overall in CASAS, which, you know, it would make sense. And I, just hearing you now, I just asked it, could you estimate my personality type on the MBTI? And it said INTJ, and I've actually taken these assessments, and I get ENTJ a lot.
You do?
So it's very close, you know. It probably knows me better though, so maybe I'm more introverted than I think. But I think it just shows that there's a lot of power in these technologies as we're able to leverage them. So we're building out our learning and career coach now, which will be AI driven. And when we work in school systems on the outside as well, and we're going to release it there first, because we have to do a lot of correctionalizing, so you can't take it off the rails in a jail setting and plan your brilliant escape, say, or because we have to really lock it down for that. But that's where we're going. So I don't think we have it figured out today, but I think we come from a very similar philosophy that has to be goal driven by the user, and we want to, you know, our system, we want it to know you as a learner, your competencies, your personality, your career goals, your assessments, your vocational, you know, interest surveys as well. We want to know that, like, as well as Amazon knows what you want to buy next, right? So we're really thinking of this from a data-driven point of view. And, you know, a big part of that is also getting that data, right? So, you know, just on the learning records, right? You can see on a group learning record what applications people are completing courses in, you know, what courses are actually being completed in different groups. You can see, you know, you can pull up an individual and see the classes that they've completed. You can see, you know, kind of where the usage is overall. So Peter, you've got 50% of the time is spent watching TV, which is really good. Some facilities that, you know, just let people have them all day and want to be more self-paced, it goes to 90%. So, you know, maybe this AI tool can help encourage people more in that direction. But you can see all of that. And then if I wanted to like jump into, you know, someone's profile here, you could actually see, you know, very granularly that view of their learning all in one system, right? And, you know, so this user, we don't have goals set, but you know, we do see a lot of data on what courses they're taking, what scores they're getting. So you see from metrics learning, from American high school. So the learner and the teacher gets to see this. So, you know, we think it's important for the learners to get that sense of accomplishment as they're going through, and just putting it all in one pane of glass so the teacher doesn't have to open a bunch of different apps and get all that data in. And all that same data is going to power the AI coach. So it's going to know your personality type, and it's going to know that you have not been spending enough time in high school and completing high school is a goal. And it's going to know based on your personality type what kind of nudge you need, you know?
And also maybe you want to take a cooking course.
Exactly.
Something, maybe you want to explore, you know, history of superhero culture in the midst of something, and you get to have that input as well.
I played around with it. I'm thinking, what do I want to be doing in 20 years? You know, I want to be doing my next company or two, and I want to be in asteroid mining, you know, very far out there, just thinking about it. And I was like, you know, testing our AI, and it's recommending all these courses that would like build up the skills to do that. And it's, you know, totally wild, far out, not real career pathway yet. So I think that's important. And for the Virgin Islands model, we're using these assessments with the Vantage and the strong art to recommend that course for the user to take in that next course. But we also are opening up the full course library so they can also go browse and additionally choose to take whatever interests them. You know, we are working with Coursera and a lot of clients. They could go take a ton of general interest courses on Coursera. And we want to bring what people use on the outside. You know, Coursera is what I used when I was locked down in the pandemic and wanted to brush up on my macro econ, right? Yeah.
So if you had teachers, the teachers and the caseworkers would both be able to see it and use it and encourage the students?
Yes. Teachers, administrators, learners all have views. Case managers can access it as well. And there's a whole, this isn't even the full case manager piece, right? So you can also see the usage, what someone's doing, you know, actually the time spent in addition to the completion. But again, it's the completion and the goals, like you were saying earlier, that really matters, not you know, butts in seat or eyes on screen. So case managers, that's the whole Vantage Evolve platform, which, you know, I don't have the credentials to demo here now, but there's a whole other piece on the case management side, and so we're putting it all together, and we think they're a great program for the case management piece, and then connected with ours, it's tightly integrated with the learning. Yeah.
I really appreciate you know, the efforts towards equitable access, but I also noticed you kind of said a few times, oh, we have to correctionalize it. So I'm just curious, right, like with the best practices in user-centered design, how you're incorporating like learner input, learner feedback as you're developing.
Yeah, it's a really great question, right? We have a feedback button on the app for a lot of learners, so they can go and, you know, on every piece of content, give that feedback, you know, a sad face to a happy face, and leave a comment. And so we'll occasionally go through that, and when we do our next design cycles, but it's just too much feedback for us all to go through. So we're building an AI pipeline now to, you know, to process all of it. And you know, trying to just go into the cells, the prisons, talk with people, you know, have it actually be based on the users. And so that's a very difficult thing to do when you're building a company that is serving a user that is not your economic buyer. All your incentives point to not caring at all about this user. So you really have to make a concerted effort. You know, I think that's the same case for a nonprofit. You know, your economic buyer in that sense is your funder, right? So how do you tie it to the end user? I mean, we just have a culture of caring, you know, yeah, user-centered design. I mean, just try to involve people in design process. I have a cool story to tell you. A quick tangent. So a guy emails me on Zoom. So this is how we got in touch with one of our consultants who's helping us think these things through. I'm a student at Southern New Hampshire University. I want to talk with you about Nucleus. I've done some research online. It seems like you're one of the best providers in this space. I'm flattered. I'm like, yeah, let's talk for 15 minutes. So again, the Zoom, we're talking, yada, yada. Well, great. So where are you now? Where are you based out of? Oh, I'm currently incarcerated in Maine DOC. Oh, you're on Zoom? You're emailing? Yeah, if you get to the high enough privilege level, you can actually have pretty unrestricted access there. Maine, it's incredible what they're doing. And so we're talking, he's incredibly knowledgeable with this guy, Ryan Hopkins. So I'm saying, wait, when are you out? Can you come work for us? 10 years. Okay, that's a long time, right? But he says, no, you can hire me now.
I was gonna say, one of our colleagues is currently incarcerated in Maine, so
Right?
we're not doing.
It's incredible. So what Maine is doing, and I think it's a real model for the rest of the country to say, you know, what does incarceration mean in a digital age? Should it mean you lose all your freedom and access, or should it be some of those freedoms and access are removed, but we're going to keep in place those that are going to build up your skills and the pro-social things you're doing. So Ryan's working with us as a consultant now while in prison. He joins every single one of our design calls. He says, I've seen every talent program. We have a lot of them on the inside. And here's what I think. So that's, I think it's really important. I think it's really hard. And I think we need to keep always getting better at it. Yeah.
Who provides the tablet?
So we just do software, but we have a partner, IT1, that can source the hardware. And so we use commodity hardware. Again, we want to give users what's used on the outside. So we use Chrome OS tablets, Chromebooks, computer labs. We can source them from Lenovo, HP, all sorts of ones. For the tablets, we can do a correctional case. And then we also help people refurbish existing hardware as well. Lots of times there's old Windows PCs that are difficult to maintain because of the software. Windows is out of date and just generally hard to secure anyway. So we convert them to a Chromebook, and then, you know, Chrome is a fully cloud managed operating system, basically. So you can lock it down, we manage it. So we source the hardware from anywhere, can use existing hardware. And that's another important piece too. What you can do on a tablet in the cell, lots of programs let people take the tablets into the cell. I think that's definitely the best thing. They can work on the computer lab. And then when people leave, we're making it so they can still access a pared down version of the platform that still has that record and lets them share it with employers. Yeah.
Did you have a question?
I did.
Okay,
yes.
yeah, go ahead. I've already asked.
Thank you. This is kind of an open question for everyone here, because I think I can get help, because I teach in a correctional facility in a small classroom with 5 computers. I teach 10 students at a time. So half the time they're ready testing for the GED, or half the group is that while I teach the other half, then they swap. And I'm there 3 hours a week. And obviously technology could help me greatly, but how do I get the administrators and people in charge to allow the students to even have technology outside of my classroom, because it's not allowed, right?
I think I would like use AI, find case studies and things that can prove that technology actually leads to better outcomes with incarcerated individuals. I mean, like for us, we have like 5,000 incarcerated individuals in Utah. We could never serve all of those people at once.
Yeah, so in other words, make an argument to show them this works and blah, blah, blah.
Or
So how
you
do you
can say
do,
like,
how do you do that in an institution that is very punishment based, which is, we're gonna punish you and punish you and punish you until you change your behavior? Exactly.
It doesn't work.
We all in this room probably know that doesn't work, but if they believe that, how do I convince them?
So
Yeah, Peter.
I can tell you from what happened with us, it becomes a philosophical and cultural change, and it starts from the top down. Like I said, when I started, that our governor made a decision that it's going to be a rehabilitative and not a warehousing program. Because with the warehousing program, people felt that you did the crime, now you gotta do your time. I don't, this other stuff that we're doing is a benefit. The inmates should not have access to this benefit.
Don't deserve it.
They don't deserve it. And so what used to happen with us is that they would fight it tooth and nail, meaning that they would find reasons why they can't transport them to the education building. They would find all kinds of reasons. So what you have to do is you have to have the buy-in from the administration. And that you have to have the support from them saying, look, this is what we're gonna do. And that I need your support in bringing it down. So my director had to write memos or directives to the staff saying that programs should not be halted for any reason. Okay? Because we support this. We were spending money on programs and they should not be halted. Because they'll find any reason to shut down a building. They'll find a reason why inmates should be in lockdown. Okay? So it became a shift in the paradigm as to how the people are thinking, right? And we had to sit there and we had to educate them. Now, from an administrative standpoint, from what I did, I showed where that there was a cost benefit, where that putting on these programs provided a benefit to meet the end game, to meet the end goal. And so with that now, I wrote grants that were able to cover the cost, because there's a lot of BJA, there's a lot of the justice grants out there. For us, we have the Office of Interior that helps us a lot. And then we had a lot of local individuals that were willing to put up funding. We wrote the grants for that stuff, right? So we were showing them that, look, we have a funding source that's gonna take care of this education program. We're fixing the problem of not having the staffing, and we are still accomplishing the goal of creating a career path for these individuals. Because at the end of the day, everything that we do is to make sure they get a job when they get out. Okay, so when they transition out, that's the workforce piece, because now that's gonna pay taxes, that's your next door neighbor, you want them to be contributing members of society.
I would add one thing to that, which is, I think an effective argument is the safety of your officers. Study after study shows when people have access to digital devices to engage them, both entertainment and education, the officer violence incidents go way down. So why are you making your officers less safe by doing that? And then of course, the broader argument is, the corrections agency is a duty to, of course, keep the facility safe, but also to help promote safety in the communities by preparing people to go back. And so these things all tie in that direction. So I think there's a ton of arguments from it, even if you don't think people are deserving. self-interested ones, if
Well,
you
that's
will.
what I'm gonna need. I'm gonna need a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of
Um,
great arguments.
Yeah, and we argue these things all the time, so happy to help. If, put us in touch, we'll argue with them.
You know, to help the community in general, you know, once they're released, cause recidivism is a reality and.
So one of the things about our platform is that it's tied into our one-stop provider. So, inmates can go on there and they can see what jobs are available. They can already start the conversation with with our local Department of Labor to, you know, cause one of the things that we wanna do is that we realize that once an inmate is released, you kind of lose them once they go through the door.
Mhm.
So we make sure that we make appointments so that when they leave, that they already have an appointment with our Department of Labor or whatever, agency they need to reach out to. And they can see all this stuff. They can, enroll and enlist through the tablet.
Nice.
That was actually the question I had. That's been one of our challenges with the jail program in Monroe. We try to get them to HiSET while they're in there, but when they come out, it's hard to get them to, you know, engage. They kind of fall back into patterns. So I was gonna ask, like, what are some strategies that keeps them engaged where you can hook them up with that job, which is the most important?
Right, so they're able to do their job searches, and we've established a relationship with our one-stop provider. They come in and they help with resume writing, and that can be uploaded into the system. And they also do the interview, they do interview classes. And so this is part of our reentry program, because one of the things that we developed a case management system where that we monitor them up to 1 year after they're released. So, because sometimes people just need that extra help to get to the end game. And so, part of that process, we're making sure that, we help them get to that end goal.
How frequently, up to in that 1 year, like twice a week you're checking out, or is it every day?
We follow up with them because when they leave, one of the things that they have to do, upon release is that they have to tell us where they're staying and their contact information. Because when a person's released, we have to know where they're going, because we try to find places for them, upon, you know. And nowadays, you know, that's, especially for us, that's difficult. Housing is, well, I don't even get into that conversation.
Like, we try doing this monthly. A lot of them is appointment based, so if you know that you have an appointment with, let's say going to see resume building or whatnot. Follow up, what's your next step, prepare them for the next step, and then follow up again. Giving them that independence to make sure that they do it as well, but we also call to make sure, hey, did you do it? With that evidence, so it's always a monthly, will be giving them that time frame, but also you know your clients, you know who needs more of a hand holding, or who have that independence to do it on their own.
I think, back to this gentleman's point about I just started telling my administration, like, education is not a privilege.
Right.
And I think that that's kind of where you need to start, is that we've already obviously failed these individuals in their life somewhere else, and it's like, this is not it's not an incentive, like, oh, we're only gonna give, that's what I watch our prison right now do, is like, oh, we're only gonna let these people enroll if they have good behavior, and like, some of them just need a chance, just give them a chance, you know? Everybody just needs a chance. I've made plenty mistakes in my life, and I always need second chances, and I think, and I talk a lot about like the inverse correlation between education and violence. And I've started even going into, like new officer trainings, like when we're training new officers, to talk to them about education and violence and like you know, what happens when you increase education, because I think if you can get those newer people on board too, the people that are coming in as new officers, then they can, you know, do something they can start to change the culture, because the culture, it's a top down, takes forever to change culture, you know?
So as an administrator, I would love to see more technology in our systems. However, our department, I'm from Illinois, we are very siloed. And so you have reentry over here, clinical over here, education over here, and yet our IT department is a separate agency who oversees our entire department. And we have a ton of issues with IT. They can't figure out how to secure the environment. We tell them, this is what we want, this is what we need. They're like, well, we just can't figure out how to get it secured. I'm like,
Yeah.
It's out there.
And then there,
Right.
and then your IT department's complaining, how come you're sending us whitelisting tickets every week? You know, we don't wanna do this. So IT departments love when we take that off their plate.
That Dixon View has a GED test update, so our GED labs go down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Statewide, we have 28 facilities. It's not always the administrators that doesn't
Oh,
run
yeah.
it,
Oh, yeah.
because we do. It's the other counties, even procurement, the procurement rules in some states are hard to navigate, to get something done in facilities.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Yep,
It's.
I agree with you.
Do you have, I mean, a lot of these feel like they're primarily online or digital, pathways. Do you have learning platforms that are more of an extension of learning so that the primary learning is happening in person with teachers? And then there's the ability to do extension of learning outside of the classroom in the cells?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of programs work like that. I think, are you familiar with, change companies, for instance? They have workbook-based programs. They do a lot of the cognitive behavioral programs. They have a tablet-based, component as well. We see on the, academic side, there's a lot of in-person GED, high school diploma classes. GED is most commonly what is provided, if anything. And then we'll provide that in-person supplemental component if they're also practicing those things on essential ed or using the GED online test prep, things like that. So, I think that's probably, the best model is using both and or college programs where they teach it synchronously on a Zoom or go in person, and then they can work on the learning management system, do the reading and
Yeah,
assignment.
or something where you're able to like upload, the assignments and stuff that they did, the homework, that they can access in their cell.
Yeah.
So I feel like that would be much more useful for like the way that we do education in our state anyway.
Yeah, that's, that's almost always the case. We're going into places that have in-person programs. We're never displacing teachers. No one says, great, we're gonna fire our teachers now, we got the tablets. No, that's really not how it works. So I think that's exactly what you have to do. And the answer is, as flexible as the programs your teachers want to bring in, right? So we work on that to figure out that model. That makes sense, yeah.
I thought I saw it. No.
Oh, yeah.
I just have one other question and it's a simple one. So I know you talked about single sign-on. What prevents another inmate or cellmate from signing on for someone else and completing that coursework?
Yeah, no, it's a challenge, right? We have a number of different measures. So you have to take a picture when you sign in to show it's you. And we can, if a state's policies allow it, we can do facial recognition too. We have systems to detect if you log on to someone else's device, you get an alert, and then we location lock people's logins. So you can't use that login on another pod. We know where the device is. And in some cases, we have it. So you check out that tablet that first time and it locks to you and you can't sign out ever. No one else can sign in but you to that device until an officer unlocks it or you get change location. So a number of different techniques. Yeah.
We use tablets, like there might be in some facility, other facilities right now, we're like 3 to 1, like we have, one tablet for every 3 people and they do have to share. And we're working on the technology, it's a process, as you know. So that like creates another kind of problem for us and people move constantly. And so it's not just their device,
Yeah, I think the best practice for like an important assessment, some of them like a Pearson VUE GED test, they're gonna require it, but any high stakes exam, even for anyone, not just incarcerated learners, is proctored or monitored, even the virtual one, so.
The test, like.
The
I'm
coursework.
thinking about, like the courses, like I.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna do my work for Emily, or Emily's work.
And you're in the
I'm gonna
same
do it,
pod.
And Emily's gonna pay me, yeah, we're in the
Your
same pod, and
bunkies.
she's gonna pay me in Coca-Cola and
Yeah.
like it's gonna be perfect, So that's kind of my concern.
Yeah, no, it's,
And you might not know right now, but just.
technology side, you could snap the picture all the time, I suppose, see who's actually taking it, right? There's things we could do on that side. It hasn't come up as such a big thing we've solved for that specific case, but Yeah.
With full experience, like, they're adults now, they're pretty knowledgeable, knowing that if they have to take an effective GED test, it's really not gonna help them if someone else is doing their coursework.
Yeah, comes back to that intrinsic motivation.
One of the things that we do as well is we realize the rigidity with the GED in a correctional setting. And so we use the paper-based ISET test. So that would include giving assignments to the students that they can take back to the pods, which I would imagine would reduce some of that limitations of them sharing platforms. I'm sure that some states don't use the ISET as much as others do, but with us, we realized that it did reduce the technology limits that were introduced, especially with having secure testing computers and stuff like that, because they're paper-based tests.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing workbooks, you can also have someone else writing it. I think you want to go for that intrinsic motivation. If you have the right goal setting, someone really determines on their own or with your help, hey, I want to pass my GED test because it's gonna help me. Then, they kind of connect the dots. Why am
I
I?
just know that my state director, is one of the things he would ask me.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there any kind of goal assessment?
Yes, we do a goal assessment.
Assessing their goals, like their own.
Yeah,
Real quick, because I know we're.
I know, we're running out.
Like the dollar signs.
Yeah.
Have you covered that yet?
Price varies, but it'd be best we just talk about it directly, right? We meet agencies where we are. I know we're wrapping up. We want to show one video just to show the director and.
Video of one of our programs and how it is taught and how we deliver it with the students. And you'll see in there, you'll see our green tablet and they use it as part of the learning process.
All right, so let me pull that up. So this is a VR partner we're working with in Virgin Islands called Promising People, and they put this video together and let's pull it up. Oh, and so this is Director Testamark. I'll watch it here.
Had the opportunity to work with promising people that just took it to a whole nother level.
Promising People's VR provider.
I've never been so excited for something in my life. We were training so far. It's very different. I don't see that for my job experience. Basically, like you learning as a video game. It's fun, but at the same time you learn you're playing a video, but it's a learning process. It feels really like a really there. I'm basically telling you step by step.
I like the fact that, that you have another chance to go back and again, just to get it right.
Sit down, relax. Do your virtual learning training. You don't even have to be in the classroom itself or in the building. You can just sit down, get yourself started, and get going. Way better, way faster. Yes. And instead of listening to somebody speak all
Trying.
I can actually work myself. Gives you a hands-on approach rather than just a classroom approach. So it works both. It gives you
So, yeah, one of the very cool things about Promising People, we work with like 3 or 4 VR providers. They have a full high school diploma program that's actually in the VR headset. Combined with the tablet, it's like both with American High School, right? And, early, test data shows that it's a lot more engaging and we'll keep seeing how it works, but they also have a variety of, vocational programs as well, so.
Actually, the project side is hybrid, where that there is some instruction in
Yeah, I
the
saw
class.
that.
And so, and then what they can do is they can take that same Oculus back to their, cell unit. And they can continue going through the coursework.
How do I get that video you just showed?
Well, great question. I'll pull up the last slide, which is our contact.
Buy a beer.
Yeah. Just introduce me to your director. But no, would be happy to talk. I'll share the slides in the WOVA app as well. And, oh, here we go. And here,
I sent my contact
Yeah.
over to you already.
exactly, yeah.
Some say Volvo, some say who, I don't know what they, I'm gonna use both.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.